pixels that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. He's got questions rolling like a big John Deere, digging deep with modders so their voices we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Big Daddy Dave, and this is Farm Sim Talk, a show where we get to talk to other creators here in the Farm Sim community and find out a little bit of extra about them. I am joined here tonight by Bad Punkin Gaming. Bad Punkin, how you doing tonight?
I am very good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. Want to give a few shout outs here to the chat. I see a whole bunch of you out there. I see Tony and MM Logging, Majors Gaming, Dust Bunny. We got JFD3PO, Ken Adlum. Who else we got here? Think I got everybody I see so far. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day so far. Let's see. So, Bad Punkin, do you want to kind of give us a little overview of who you are and what it is that you do here in the community?
Sure. So, I've been playing Farm Sim since Farm Sim 19 and started on console and played console through mid 22 and then heard all of the glory of playing PC gaming and farming. And with the help of some friends and family, built my first PC. Switched over to PC farming in second half of 22. When 25 came out, made the switch, and was playing enough hours and making enough potential content that I thought I'd throw it on YouTube and see what stuck. So we started that back in April and just having fun making content and doing lives.
Excellent, excellent. Do you want to give any shout outs before we get going?
Everyone in the community, my mods, I won't name them because I'll name 4 or 5 of them and I'll miss a couple, but all the guys that make this possible in the background that are helping with the servers and the Discord and keeping the chat in line and everything else, appreciate all you guys for everything you do. And and making what we call the pumpkin patch what it is today. And I tell them this all the time, but it's probably more their community than it is mine at this point, and that's a reflection of the character of the people involved, and really just lucky to have those guys in there, and they make me look good and they make it a lot of fun.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to go into our first segment here called Digging Up Dirt. This is the segment where we get to know who you are outside of the community. So, my first question is do you have a job outside of creating content, or is this your primary job?
I do. I do. And I usually have a couple of jobs. My primary source of income right now is residential real estate. I'm a real estate agent in Ohio, and I've been doing that for this will be my 12th year. And that is what gives me the flexibility to be involved in content creation and being in control of my own schedule and having fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, real estate. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually just went through the whole real estate process here just back in May, as a matter of fact, is when we ended up buying our new home and getting out of our old one. And oh man, it's amazing and how, at least from our vantage point, from our point of view, on how the realtor really does make the experience. Like it makes everything come together. Um, I know with our realtor, he was actually kind of a friend of the family, so it was even like a little layer deeper. Um, do you have any kind of like, I guess, like horror stories from your time as a realtor? You said you've been doing it for about 12 years now.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen everything from wild amounts of success to people that want to fight over every single detail. I've been in houses that I wouldn't want to wear my shoes back home afterwards in. It's a spice of life. You get to see it all. You get to see, professional athletes' homes and all the glory, and sort of get to relive the MTV Crib days, and then you get to see houses that probably shouldn't be upright anymore and everything in between. So there's a lot out there, and it's an adventure. And I think, my favorite part is probably less about the houses and more about the people, and the experiences we have with them. Just, help them find a home, helping them sell a home, that kind of stuff. Just the engagement with them and the experience. And when we have, from a professional standpoint, when we sort of are bringing that relationship to a close, we always have a little bit of reflection on the houses that either got away or we let get away. And the ones that we let get away because they weren't, they may not have been up to snuff, always make for a good laugh at the end.
I can certainly see that, and I would imagine that that job can be very rewarding. You get yourself, either like young couple, and you get them into their first home, or just I mean anybody in general, especially if you're on the buying end. Not maybe not so much the selling end, but I mean even that could be pretty rewarding. I would imagine too. But I mean, does it? You said that it was the people that you work with that really kind of make it. Would you say that that is like the reward that you get?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, in what you shared about your experience with your agent being more than someone that you just picked a number out of a hat and called and said, "Hey, can you help us buy a house?" I look back and I live in the community I grew up in. And, I'm looking at people I knew since high school and in middle school, and their brothers and sisters and their parents and their family. And, being able to sort of circle back and be part of their lives, whether it's transitioning into their first home or, helping people with their parents sell their last home before they move into some level of assisted living. There's always a transition and a journey there. And the reward is making that transition as smooth and successful as possible. It can be buying a house on a good day is a very stressful experience. Most people go through that 4 or 5 times in their life. And things that we do 4 or 5 times that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can count on one hand. And, making sure that those experiences are, we'll call it mistake free. We avoid the pitfalls, and helping people get where they need to be, and then getting the Christmas cards a year after in front of their new house with snow on the ground and that kind of stuff is the best part of the job for sure.
Oh, I could completely understand that. And you mentioned like a horror story. It actually reminded me of what happened to me on our day of closing because we ended up doing I forget what they called it, but it was basically sold our home and bought the home in the same day. I think what
Hmm.
they called it like a double close or something.
Yep. Yep.
And basically, what had happened was that the people who were buying our old home, they were doing everything through I think it was the FHA, like the first time home buyers
Hmm.
thing.
Yep.
And right up into the day of closing, they were sitting there coming to our agents like, oh, well, we need this. Oh, we need that. Like all these different things. Like it got so like almost I don't want to use the word petty, but it was almost like to that level
Yep.
because the bank like they're making sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted, like every little thing. It had to be in order, or else they couldn't get the financing for the home. And what ended up happening is we were supposed to start closing on that home at like I think it was like 11 o'clock in the morning, something along those lines. And we get out there and they're like, oh, well, they haven't even signed the paperwork yet, which means we don't have the finances in our
See, the
end.
wire hasn't been sent. Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, so we're panicking because that morning, unbeknownst to us, we had gotten up to our new home, which is over an hour and a half away from our old home. We've got the box truck, we've got several people with us, we got cars just lined in the streets, and we get there and somebody hands us the key to the house. And they're like, "Here you go. You're the new homeowners. Have fun." I'm like, "Okay, that doesn't seem right, but okay." So
Yep.
again, unbeknownst to me and my wife who are, off, in the city to go sign the paperwork, everybody goes in there and starts unloading everything from all like the box truck, the cars, everything. And we are out in the city trying to sign the paperwork, and they're telling us, well, you can't move in right now. You don't have the finances to pay for it, and like you don't have the transfers, all this stuff. And we are panicking, and it's getting to be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're like, okay, now you can go to your bank, do X, Y, and Z, and then come back here, finish signing the paperwork. And our bank is, on the other side of the city. So we're
Yep.
scrambling to get through the city, get there, and it winds up. They're like, okay, you have to be here, have all the paperwork done and over with by 4:30. That should be when the last transfer goes. And we're like, oh my goodness. Well, we get to the bank and get the transfer done at like 4:35, 4:40 kind of thing. And we go, hauling back over to the lawyers and all that stuff. I forget what they're called.
The title
And
company. Yep.
thank you, the title company. And finally, we make it back, and they're like, "Well, we don't see that it's transferred. There's not a whole lot we can do." And I'm like, okay. And that's when we get a call on the way back from my father-in-law saying, "Oh yeah, everything's unpacked and in the house."
You already moved in.
And I'm
Yep.
sitting there like, "Okay, this is a problem. I've got two small kids. I've got my wife. What do we do?" So
Yep.
the lawyer sitting there calling around. It's like, well, are they allowed to move in and the blah 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 and all this stuff? It's like, well, we already kind of got the key, but we didn't tell them that just yet. But
That's a classic case of permission and forgiveness.
yeah, well, I was worried about the level of forgiveness needed at that point because I
Yeah, it is a very, very complicated process to do double closes. Um, we had not a deal that we were involved with, but we had knowledge of a deal that was five concurrent closes. So it was
wow.
five buyers and sellers. It was a cascade of homes, and someone decided to try to do that in one day. And shockingly, that didn't come together. And I think at the end of the day, four or five people, or four or five sets of people, were staying in hotels for almost a week to get it figured out. So it's
Wow.
yeah, paperwork moves at the speed of paperwork.
Yeah, yeah, and thankfully, we got permission from the seller of our new home to go ahead and move in because it was a new build kind of thing. They're like, yeah, you got the good faith money, you got all this stuff, like
Yeah.
everything's in order for the most part. We're just waiting for the transfer, and you have a copy of the transfer like taking place. So go ahead and take it over. It's
Yep.
fine. So thankfully, it all worked out.
Yeah. Good.
So let me ask you this: what kind of hobbies do you have besides farm sim? Do you like to go hiking, fishing, sports? Um,
I got a couple things. I've been coaching hockey for, let's see, 24 years now. At some level, I started as one of my first summer jobs was coaching hockey at summer hockey camps, and that's how I worked my way through college. I coached hockey through college and have coached everything from learn to skate to high school hockey to travel, the house league. Just actually recently interviewed for a collegiate job that didn't. The job was great, but the position didn't work out what they were looking for and what I was looking for. So I spend a lot of time at ice rinks when I'm not doing real estate or farm sim. And in my younger days, I probably spent a lot more time canoeing, camping, hiking, snowshoeing. Lived in Colorado for a couple of years, get out there very frequently. So enjoyed a lot of that stuff when we lived out there. And, not as much now that we've crested 40, but enjoying what we can.
all right, y'all. I hate to break it to you, but this is going to turn into the hockey show here in about 2 seconds. I don't know if you can see this on the screen there,
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it when we got on.
but you Columbus fan by chance?
No, no, abs all the way.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, so now we really got to fight.
I was gonna say that's what I saw. I saw the hat. We got some history we don't even know about, right?
Oh, but you know what? Those were some good times back in the what was it, the late '90s,
Yep.
era. Oh man, that was that was some great hockey there.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was the heyday of hockey. That was the peak of before it became entertainment and the rules became about how entertaining it was and not about the sport. But that's a soapbox discussion. But it was those were the great games. I just finished watching the documentary about saving Joe Sakic when New York tried to take him away from the Avs when he became a free agent, and the whole moving parts. And it was a really interesting documentary, and it was a really interesting story. And there's always a backstory, right, with teams and hockeys and franchises, and it came down to how are they going to find the money and save him and keep him in Colorado, and it's just always fun to see the behind the scenes stuff when it comes to a franchise that you support.
oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many moving parts, and you can get might be able to get a few people on board to help free up some space and whatnot, knowing the caliber of player that you got. So yeah, I mean, it's such um a dynamic job being like a GM and just being in those kind of positions of the organization. You've got so many, balls to juggle that I mean it gets crazy. But I mean I can think back to, back in those days. I mean you all had like Joe Sakic, you had Patrick Waugh,
Milan Hayduk.
Hayduke, and
Yeah.
Claude Lemieux, and
Hmm.
I mean Claude Lemieux is the reason why the rivalry got as big as it did.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I mean that hit on Chris Draper back in those days. Yeah, that's what really kind of got the whole thing like really kicked off.
I
But
think that may be the definition of spitting chicklets.
oh yeah. So coaching hockey, what kind of got you into that space?
So I played growing up and was an above average player, but not anything special. And my hockey career came to a very natural end at the end of high school, and wasn't really ready to give it up, and played club and pick up in college and men's league and that kind of stuff. But wanted to make some money going through college, so I was always at the rink anyways. And I actually ended up my first part of that job was actually I was a rink manager. I got to drive the Zamboni, which was
Ooh.
still one of my favorite jobs ever. I mean, that's just a ton of fun. And you talk about driving fun things. That was at top of the list, or part of the top of the list was driving a Zamboni. But they learned I'd played and were looking for some coaches. So I got on the ice, and then that sort of started the snowball effect. And I'd already been doing some coaching and picked up from there, and just just always enjoyed it. And in the same way that it's, about relationships and connecting in real estate, coaching youth hockey in particular is so much more than just trying to get the X's and O's in the right spot on the ice, and dealing with kids who are whatever, lagging behind socially, or having social emotional struggles, or or maturing through sports and that kind of stuff. I always enjoyed being involved. And to the extent that when I actually was the director of youth hockey at the University of Denver for a number of years post college. And we were all very competitive, and we were, there was probably 12 directors in Colorado for the hockey travel programs that we all played for, or all the kids played for. But in the off season, we got together and we decided, myself and a couple other individuals decided to sort of put the University of Denver on the spot and tell them that we had already started discussing them doing a charity hockey event for inner city kids that had never seen an ice rink before. And through a lot of good marketing and good faith and a lot of people working really hard, we brought in about 24 kids that, came from troubled neighborhoods, troubled backgrounds, broken homes, had never seen an ice rink, had never set foot on ice before. And for 7 days, we fed them 3 square meals a day and put them on the ice and took them and did film and took them to the Division 1, Pioneers gym facility, and showed them around campus, and they got educational opportunities, and they got to learn, certain things and get help with other social services they needed. And at the end of that process, we put on a big scrimmage, and all the families came out, and it was a big press conference and everything else about it. And there was a lot of flashing cameras and talking at the podium by higher ups than me. But for us, it was about getting those kids and giving them an experience they'd never had before. And it was amazing to see what 24 kids that had never stepped foot on skates before, let alone on the ice, put on the ice at the end of the week as far as a scrimmage. And just seeing the opportunity they had, and they became part of the University of Denver community, and they were offered special acceptance status if they came back to the college later. So it's just a really cool way to get involved. And that's, one sort of extreme example of stuff we do. But just the day-to-day coaching and being involved with kids and helping them through struggles and giving them a constructive outlet for their energies, their anger, their frustrations, their successes, their failures, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to coaching, is that you're not just the person who's there to teach them how to play the game and how to play it right, but you're the person that's going to also be, a extension of, their emotional support, or, especially at the level that you're talking about, being, involved with younger kids. Yeah, there's so many different layers that are involved there, that a lot of people don't realize. So that's actually really cool that you're, here telling us that, hey, there's like a whole nother layer to what it is that you do. I mean, that's fantastic. So out of curiosity, what position did you play?
Well, being the size that I am, I was transitioned to defense at about 13 years old because I could skate backwards and I was large. So they decided that was a good safe spot for me. So I ended my high school career playing defense. But where we are in Ohio, we have the way the high school program works, you play high school, and then there's a pre-post program where you can play travel hockey, essentially August till November 1st. And then you go to high school, and then you come back and you play March, April, whenever you're done with your states run, through the end of school right around May, June, and you get like a second season in. So in high school, where I was, committed and serious, I played defense. And then on the pre-post team, where we all screwed around and had a bunch of fun, I got to play some forward too. But everyone preferred me on defense because no one liked being in the corners with me.
I gotcha. Yeah, back when I played, I was goaltender. I used to love being between the pipes, and just had a good old time. I didn't care about the shots being taken and all that stuff, and that's what the pads were for.
Yep. Yep.
But
Takes a special kind of guy to play goalie, I'll say that much.
I tell you what, man, I absolutely loved it. It was one of those where, had I not gotten hurt, I probably would have, continued playing for a very long time. Um, yeah, it just so much fun. I absolutely loved it. But so tell me, what kind of movies, television shows are you into?
So that's a great question, and I answer it the same way I answer it. I probably haven't watched TV outside of the NHL in 4 years. So I would rather play farm sim. I'd rather game. I'd rather be outside. Um, when I did watch movies, it was always mindless action films. I mean, the 90s, Schwarzenegger, just, I mean, Rambo and Kindergarten Cop and just, the mindless, silly action flicks just to relax were always a cult classic. And, we've, you look back at them now and you try to think about the quality of the film and the storyline and the development and everything else, and this was all pre CGI and everything else. So it was a golden era of movies. I'm glad we moved past it, but it was a lot of fun when the good guy always won and the bad guy always lost, and the explosions were always bigger than the last series. So
So even though your choice of teams are subpar, we can still be friends. I grew up loving the old '90s, action movies. Last Action Hero is one that comes to
Mhm.
mind with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, just almost to the level of absurdity
Oh
that
yeah.
some of these movies were. Is just they were just made just to enjoy and have fun and just blow everything up in its wake. It was just a ton of fun.
Yep.
So, what about books? You like to read?
No, I don't read very much either. I really should. But I've been through. I did college. I did a bit of law school. I've been licensed in 3 states for real estate. I have my mortgage license as well. Um, I'm a CPR instructor. I'm always in class for something, for Con Ed, renewals, education, ongoing, that kind of stuff. I mean, when I was in the fire service, I had my paramedic and my fire 240 and all that kind of stuff. So I read for the purposes of renewing and education and licensing. So it lost its appeal. As a kid, I read all the time, but ever since getting into the license world where you need a certificate to do everything, it's been purely for the purposes of professional advancement.
Gotcha. And did I catch that right? You said that you were a paramedic at one point?
Yeah, I was a full-time paramedic and firefighter for 12 years before getting into real estate. Those careers actually overlapped for about 5 years. The tail end of the fire service job into the beginning of the real estate job, and when real estate took off and was more financially viable than the fire service, I made the switch.
Okay, so it was just a financial reason to get out of the fire and EMT?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the career. I mean, I loved the work. I loved the guys. I loved, I think it's pretty obvious I enjoy connecting with people at this point, and being able to help people in a capacity when they may not be able to help themselves or having the worst day of their lives was always an appealing thing, and it was something that I think myself and the guys on the department were really good at. I have a number of firemen in our community, and we chat at times about the direction the fire and EMS service is headed. And, unfortunately, like a lot of things, it's heading away from being people focused and it's becoming more of a financial and entity based decision making. It's about what's good for the people who are billing and making money. So it was a great career. It's a fantastic career. I would recommend it to anyone who's interested. The challenge, reward, success scenario is unbelievable, but it also was something that over the 12 years that I was employed, I saw our opportunities to help people declining, our access to resources declining. It became harder and harder to do the same job, and it was made the decision. It made it not easy, but it made it easier at the time, knowing the way that that career path is headed in today's times. To say, maybe it's time for the next chapter.
So, I catch a lot of like YouTube and whatnot, and I tend to take in a lot of the like body cam footage and things along those lines. Do you have a story that you'd be willing to tell us that was one of your kind of more uh, kind of wild stories from your time as an EMT or firefighter?
Sure, sure. I mean, we had everything from, most people who have been in the industry understand that 95+% of your calls are absolutely nothing. One of my key favorite moments. The city I worked for, we were very heavily into EMS. We didn't do a lot of fire. We did very, very little fire, which, from a safety standpoint and how devastating fire is to people's lives is a great thing. As a fireman, you do get up in the morning and sort of want to fight a fire. That's why you got into the career. So it wasn't, I don't think it was quite July 4th, but it was close to either the Thursday before, Friday before, heading into July 4th weekend. And we got called for a fire in a backyard. And we pulled up, and whenever you're called for a known fire, you send everybody. It's always better to send the whole crew, empty both houses, get 5, 6, 7, 8 vehicles on scene, and have more resources than you need than to get there with one truck and find that you're overwhelmed. Because if you have a real fire, you're calling in other cities anyways. So, we go flying into this neighborhood, and most people it must have been like a Saturday or something, because it was busy in the neighborhood. There were a lot of barbecues going on, lots of cars on the street. And myself and a buddy of mine jump out to do a quick 360 around the house and try to get an idea what's going on. And we run to the back, and it turns out that it is a grill that is not near the house, that the grease is caught on fire. So, not much of a fire, but we took incident command, and we pulled a garden hose, and we put a loop in it to maintain the pressure and manage the fire. And the resident was okay with it. We talked to him ahead of time, and we put on a big show of fighting the grill fire for the neighbors and the kids and everything else with a garden hose, with our masks on and our gear on and everything else. When in reality, in full fire gear, you can walk up and switch the propane off, and it goes out in a minute or two when you close it anyways. But was a good public relations situation, because a neighbor had called it in. The guy wasn't worried about it, the guy who owned the house, but the kids got to come up and see the truck, and they got to be involved, and we got to talk about fire safety. And it was a very, whereas a lot of things you put on public safety opportunities and they're very formal and they feel a little bit forced and a little bit, potentially unreal. This was a very candid moment, and I still have in my sort of retirement stuff the picture of the guy with the garden hose and full mask just blowing away the fire coming out of this grill. And the fire was maybe 8 or 10 inches tall. This was not, it didn't even damage the grill, but it was a really funny situation that we're glad wasn't serious. And the fact that the neighborhood got involved and we got to interact with the kids and the families, and it was around the 4th of July holiday, it was just a really special experience. You got to be out in the community and just be around. And I think we hung out for a couple hours afterwards with the community as well, and just let the kids climb on the trucks and talk to the residents. And it was a really sort of unexpected, special moment when things didn't go poorly. It wasn't an emergency. You don't have to clear and go to the next call. We had a lot of circumstances aligned to have a really cool afternoon in our city.
I mean, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, because like you said, you go to a resident thinking that you're gonna fight the fire, and it turns out not to be a big deal. So you go from probably one extreme to the other, and then on top of it, you get to do a lot of this quote unquote PR work, where you're able to interact with the community, which is always very vital as part of like these kind of public facing entities.
Hmm.
Getting an opportunity, because not only is it a good opportunity for you to be able to let people know this is who you are, you're a part of their community, and you're there for them when they need you at their worst time, but you're also hopefully building future impressions, being able to get children interested. I mean, it's not that hard. You see the big red fire truck, and kids are all over it. But
Easy sale, right?
pretty easy, exactly. but but it's just one of those, like, you get that opportunity to be like, oh man, this is something that I want to do when I grow up, kind of thing. And no, that's awesome that it was able to go from hey, we're on the ready, to all of a sudden, okay, everybody stand down, we're cool, and just kind of go from there.
Yep, it was a great time.
So what kind of music are you into?
I think that changes every couple of years. Probably every 4 or 5 years it changes. Right now, Jimmy Buffett is locked on the truck radio. So, island music, folk, country, used to be metal and rap, but I got away from that when I turned 40 as well. So just, and anything that's lighthearted, easygoing. I got to throw a shout out to Nacho. We're all listening to Nacho Cast music on our streams. Nacho puts together some good music. He's got some good stuff too. So appreciate that. But anything that's just laid back, easy, life comes at you fast enough. The music doesn't need to speed it up.
Absolutely. And that's actually kind of one of my going theories about Farm Sim is the kind of slowing things down when it comes to the gaming aspect. I've always said that, Farm Sim is one of those where I got into it because I was into the hockey, the NHL games. I was into, Call of Duties and all those different styles of games. And
All the
after
blood pressure stimulus games and stuff.
Exactly, exactly. And by the
Yep.
end of it, every time I'd play them, I'd be so worked up and so like I wouldn't
Yep.
necessarily be angry, but there'd be a certain level of
Oh,
like,
you're
oh,
amped up.
exactly, exactly. So it's just one of those like I need to find something that's gonna, keep me mellow. And I stumbled across Farm Sim, and it was like, oh, we got something here.
Yeah.
We got
Yeah,
so.
you could play Farm Sim all the way until you walk right out and go to bed.
Mhm.
If you're playing Call of Duty, I play Tarkov. I've been playing some Battlefield 6 now that it's released. You need an hour to calm down after that. I mean, you're not going straight to bed. Then you're on your phone. You're not falling asleep. But Farm Sim, I do my streams. We start at 9:30. I try to go to about 1:30. I don't get to bed until about 2, but I'm in bed at 2 and I'm asleep at 2:05. Like it's lights out, it's relaxed, it's easy, it's no stress. But the other stuff I'm with you gets the blood pressure up a little bit and takes some time to calm it back down.
And that's it. That's it exactly. Yeah, I mean, almost verbatim, like same exact schedule as you just mentioned there. 9:30, I'm on, whether it's live stream, recording, whatever the case may be, and then about 1 to 2 o'clock is typically when I try and cut
Yep.
it off. So yeah, it's one of those that I am able to get up, go to bed, go right to sleep. I have no problem with it whatsoever. But it was when I sat there and discovered Farm Sim back in FS19. I literally had this conversation with myself. It's like, wait a minute, I don't have to be angry after playing a
Yep.
game. I don't have to be stressed out. Like, when
There's
did
no
this
winning,
happen?
there's no losing. There's just, it's like you make a plan for next time you get on. Like, the field that needs to be plowed or the seed needs to be or seeded or harvested or whatever it is. It's nice and easy. There's no worries. There's always something to do, and it's always low stress.
Absolutely. So back when you did watch movies, what would you say was your favorite?
The movie that made the biggest impression on me, probably hit at the right time, the right age, was The Rock with Nick Cage and Sean Connery. I mean, that was just, and it's not even that great of a movie. I've gone back and watched it again, and it's one of those things. I think the nostalgia is probably the time, the age, the era of my life that it hit. It probably happened on a day that was developmentally important to me in some way that I can't ever put my finger on. But that was my go-to for years, and it's funny now because I go back and look at it, and it's not a good movie, and it's not even a good movie by the Schwarzenegger and Stallone standards of blowing everything up. So, but that one definitely, I think I own that one on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray at one point before everything went digital.
Yeah, no, and I'm right there with you. That was almost verbatim again. Uh, hit right at the right time. And me too. I went back through and I watched it, many years later, and it's like, why isn't this as good as I had it built up in my
Yep.
head?
Yep.
Kind of things. Like I used to think that this movie was amazing, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, kind of reel myself back in there. It was almost like one of those don't meet your idols kind of
Never
thing.
Meet Your Heroes. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like,
exactly.
man, that was like I don't want to say it was a disappointment. It was like, how did I build this up in my head this way? So
Yep.
I don't know, but let me ask you, what's some of the oddest, weirdest, or most obscure movies that you've seen up until this point?
Oh, I don't know. I was dragged to a lot of movies by girlfriends of ancient days. I mean, everything from your typical chick flicks to movies. I probably I couldn't even remember the titles. I saw a bunch of movies with subtitles that were not in English. I had no idea what was going on. Foreign films. People always tell me it's like, it's the same thing as going to a restaurant for me, right? If you give me a half decent burger or you give me something that you claim is just the top food in the world and everything else, I'll probably just take the burger. Like taking me to some film that won a bunch of awards for things that I can't even pronounce and even understand, like it just was just lost on me. So, I mean, some of those I can't even pick one out, but I do remember just sitting in movie theaters as like a teenager in my 20s going, what is happening? What is going on? I can't follow the story. I don't understand. I'm not interested. I'm probably hungry at this stage. When can we get some more snacks?
Uh, yep. It's amazing the amount of torture that we will put ourselves through in order to get to know somebody or going out on a date, whatever the case may be. It's amazing the things that you'll do. Uh,
Yep. Glad that air is behind me.
oh yes, yes, 100% agree with you there. So, what would you do if content creation was no longer an option for you? Let's say tomorrow your PC blew up. What would you do in its place?
If electronics were still an option without content creation, I mean, I played enough on Xbox. I could go back to that. But, at the end of the day, I think when my gaming era is over in earnest, and it will never be totally over, I suspect it'll be finding a quiet place in the woods, having a cabin, away from civilization and enjoying a simple, quiet life where I can be outside a bunch and get back to doing the hiking and the outdoor activities that I really liked. So, that's probably not an immediate option with careers and everything else. But as you and I were discussing, being in our early 40s, there is always that sort of inkling in the back of your mind. What does the next 15 to 20 years look like? And I think that the goal for me at least is to transition to a quiet, secluded, mountainous, wooded lot somewhere and enjoy a very simple, quiet life.
That sounds like a great plan to me. I tell you what. So has it always been a dream of yours to be a content creator, or do you feel like you just fell into it?
I just fell into it. I'm not one to seek public limelight in any way, shape, or form. I probably have as many hours in Farm Sim as I do in Escape from Tarkov, and I play with a bunch of buddies and my cousin and a bunch of those games, and they were always saying, like if you're gonna play that much and you have the setup anyways, putting content out isn't that much more work. It's just, give it a whirl. So I think even though we're pretty much through the pandemic, I think the pandemic gave me the opportunity to sort of slow down and think about what else could you do? Things that you don't have to do. What other opportunities to do that kind of stuff? And content creation was sort of more of a curiosity than a desire. I like solving problems. I like logistics. So the idea of how do you put a channel together? What are the actual processes for building a channel, and then how does that translate into community? And I said the other night on stream, I mean, I probably have a total of 3 hours in Discord prior to having a content creation channel. Like I just didn't use Discord, wasn't part of any channels or any, Discord channels, anything like that. So just getting in and, sort of figuring out how all that works is what keeps me interested. Yeah, I'm going to play Farm Sim anyways. I'm going to be doing stuff that apparently enough people think is interesting that we're sitting here tonight, which is great news. But I like the problem solving aspect of it. And then, as we were discussing before we got started, the real benefit to the content creation for me has been the community. the guys and gals that are in the community, and you got people like, Lisa, who's popping around and helping everybody out. And, I popped into a nacho stream couple months ago, just did, and the guy just spoke to me directly and was kind and thoughtful. And Nacho's an incredible personality. And you got FS, and just sort of got into the community almost accidentally at that stage, and was really sort of, I wouldn't say surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised at how welcoming and non-competitive it was, because it wasn't competitive for me. But I guess I had an expectation that some people would be very competitive about content creation, and I don't think that the creative process has a competitive nature to it. Like, do what you like and put out what you do and move on from there. So it's been a very organic process. It's been a very sort of free-willed process to see where it goes, and so far it's been an absolute blast.
Absolutely. No, I again 100% agree with you. This is honestly one of the best communities I've ever been a part of, and I've been part of many different communities. But coming into the farm sim space has been, so many people are so welcoming, so easygoing, willing to help out in so many different ways. It's incredible just the amount of almost camaraderie there is within this space. It's almost overwhelming at times, seeing just how much people are willing to participate and
Yeah.
go along with things. It's a really amazing thing to experience.
Yeah, it was just recently I was fortunate enough to not only be able to participate in, but help old guy I called OG with his Canadian Cancer Society fundraiser last weekend. And he just sort of popped into the channel one night and just asked if he could talk about it. I'm like, sure, absolutely. I mean, that's a great cause and everything else. And I didn't know OG at that point from anybody, and got to know him, and not only got connected with people like him, but was able to, in a very small way, sort of do some work and help him get set up for that event, because I wasn't able to participate because I wasn't in town. But that event sort of encapsulates not only the community that you're talking about and we're experiencing, but just the really positive side to being a part of this community, not only for personal reasons and meeting people and having good relationships, but the community comes together and puts on these events and stuff like that. And it's a really cool group of people to be around and be part of.
Absolutely. So, do you like to travel?
No, no, and for the same reasons that I that I would suspect that you may not like either. I'm not a small guy, and travel is not comfortable. Planes have gotten, I don't think the planes have gotten smaller, but we'll say the seats have gotten smaller. The areas within the seats have gotten smaller. I drive a lot. I travel a lot now for work and stuff. I'm in the neighborhood of, I probably have about 500 miles a week of planned driving professionally. That's just baseline. That's before grocery shopping and everything else, and that's all obviously relatively local. But I spend enough time in the car or traveling around that I would prefer not to. In my younger days, I traveled, did Europe, did the Caribbean, did Central and a little bit of South America, and that kind of stuff, and had some fun with that. But I would just much rather stay at home where I have good snacks, I have good internet, comfortable bed, just just the things that make life enjoyable.
That's I always tell my wife that I love to travel until I lay down. And what I mean by that is the moment that I hit the bed, that's when I'm like, I absolutely hate being away from where I call home. It's
Yep.
I've never found a hotel, a
Mm-mm.
cruise, or any place where I'm like, I'm I want to be in this bed more
Yep.
than my home.
Start,
So
starts with the low back, ends in the high back. If you're there long enough, by the time you get home, you can barely walk. Yep, I'm right there with you.
you need a vacation from the vacation.
Yep. Well, you got to bring your chiropractor with you.
Yes. Yep. That's it. I vividly remember one time I had to travel for work, and I was up in Atlanta, and I laid down in the bed and I'm getting ready to fall asleep, and I'm immediately uncomfortable because it's one of those kind of beds that, and I've never experienced this ever in my life, but I laid down in the bed and almost cartoonishly sank
Yep.
into the bed
Hmm.
to where I couldn't even see over
Yep.
the,
Yep.
like the
Yeah. The edge
dent
of the
that I had
mattress.
made.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just wild. I'm like, I'm almost like folded up like a giant
Yep.
U at this point. I'm like, okay, I can't sleep in this bed like this. So I had to literally climb my way out of this thing, get into the. At that point, there was a little side desk kind of thing with a
Yep.
little chair, and I just sat in the chair and fell asleep there. I got up the next morning, talked to the front desk, and it's like, for the love of all that is holy, please find me a different room. This is just not gonna work. I'm limping, and at this point, I
Yep.
might have been in my maybe mid 30s at this point, maybe a little bit younger, and I'm just hobbling to the front desk. It's like, oh my
Yep.
goodness, like everything hurt, my neck, my back, and I'm like, please, please, please find me a different room. And it's like, oh, okay, let me look. And she types in the computer. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, all the rooms that you pay, like because the company, knowing that I'm going to be there for about 2 weeks, they paid for one of those rooms with a kitchenette kind of thing. It's like, well,
Yeah.
we don't have any
Yep.
more rooms with a kitchenette. I'm like,
I'll skip the
oh,
kitchenette. I need the bed.
and it was one of those that had I not wanted to eat poorly the entire time that I was there, I was like, okay. So I just sucked it up,
Yep.
and what I ended up doing is I ended up going to the local Home Depot, and I got me just a little wood plank, and I stuffed it underneath the bed because what I found
Yep.
out is that the box spring underneath was actually broken, and that's why the whole thing kind of bowed out and flexed underneath. So I just took that board and I placed it underneath there, and it worked, kind of, sort of. It was
Was
enough.
better.
It was better. It wasn't great. Made me miss the home even more. But yeah, no, it was a rough couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. The when I coach hockey, we do the kids like doing tournaments, which are for the kids and for the parents. They're not for the betterment of hockey. They're expensive. The times are bad and everything else. But I always tell my parents at the beginning of the season, if it's a less than a 3 hour trip, I'm driving up the morning of the first game. I'd rather leave at 4 a.m. and get there and get 6 hours of sleep in my own bed or 5 hours of sleep in my own bed than get a hotel the night before and start the crippling process before the first game. So they'd always see me come flying in right before the games in the morning. They'd all get there the night before and be waiting on me. And they always knew, they always laughed. I'm like, well, I'm saving you guys money anyways, so not a big deal. But I'm with you. Avoid hotels if at all possible.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, I've never found one where I've been satisfied with the bed or anything along those lines. And
Yep.
especially in my younger days, I traveled a lot, whether it was for work, whether it was just personal, whatever the case. All the time, I was up and around, going all over the place. It brings a chill down my spine thinking about it, almost
Yep.
like a PTSD kind of thing.
Yep.
So, what would you say inspires or motivates you?
For content creation or just in general in
Just in,
life?
just in general.
I'll go back. I mean, it's a stock answer at this point because I've said it 3 times, but I think it's about the connections with people. I think that I've been fortunate in my life to have a lot of very different experiences. I tend to switch careers about every 10 years, so I'm on my third career here, and just the insight and the opportunity that's given me, whether it was some of the maybe mortality with the fire and EMS side of things, and the close connections with the real estate and the hockey coaching, that kind of stuff. I really just enjoy connecting with people. And I've always said, like, I'm a mirror. You get what you give with me. If you're nice, kind, and gentle, I'll be nice, kind, and gentle. If you're not, I probably won't be either. And I've found that to serve me well in life, and it gets rid of the people that you probably don't need or want in your life to begin with. And I'd rather have, 5 or 6 close people in my life than 100 acquaintances. And, finding those opportunities and doing experiences, and we talk a lot about, particularly this time of year that's coming up with the end of the year with Christmas and New Year's and everything else. and the consumerism that we have. And believe you me, I buy enough stuff on Amazon that I'm as much a part of the problem as everyone else. But it has been a focus for the last couple of years to try to make some experience, opportunities as well as just, maybe some things under the tree and that type of thing.
No, absolutely. So, thinking of when somebody meets you for the first time, what's one thing that they're generally surprised to find out about you?
Well, I'm 6'5" and over 300 pounds, so I'm not a small guy. And that's usually the first thing they notice. So, in my career path as a fireman, I got written up for putting a dent. We had brass eagles that held our house numbers on our helmets, and I'd get written up for having a damaged helmet. And that helmet was damaged from walking into door frames in commercial buildings at 3 a.m. checking for fire because I was too tall for the doors. And I don't fit the typical 50-plus-year-old female real estate agent model very well. So when people meet me for the first time, that tends to be the first thing they notice as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, I tend to take people by surprise in that regard. That'd be about it.
Gotcha, gotcha. So that shocks me. Like the being written up for a dented helmet. Was there a reason behind the write up other than just aesthetics, or?
No, and I think the guys that have been in the fire service knows which type of lieutenant writes you up for that kind of thing. I think that's more of a power move than anything else. That's paperwork for self-justification purposes more than anything else. But, if they're looking for trouble, you can always find trouble, but you try to find the guys that get the job done. And it'd be my expectation that if you got guys that get the job done, you give them the leeway to get it done the right way.
Absolutely. So what's one of your biggest fears that keeps you up at night?
Drowning. It's after hitting 40, we were talking about how life changes. In the 20s, nothing scared me. It's really funny because I have my open water and my rescue diver certifications. So and I've had more potentially critical scuba diving accident type situations than most people have in their whole lives in the first 5 years I was certified to dive. And I used to love diving and probably still would if I still did it, but something about being trapped underwater these days just doesn't sit well with me.
Mm. Uh, just remind me, like I mentioned earlier, I catch a fair bit of YouTube and whatnot, and one of the bits of content that I started picking up on was like cave diving and the kind of like rigors and
The
problems.
nitrox cave diving, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like the really intense kind of stuff. Like you're in pitch black and you get one bad current or one bad thing and you get all that sediment kicked up and you can't see like the light in front of your face kind of thing. It's
Yep.
terrifying. Like I couldn't imagine like doing that for kicks and giggles. Like that just nope.
Yeah,
Nope.
I got to the point where with the open water and the rescue diver, the next couple of steps were either an instructor path or to go to mixed air diving, get to your nitrox and that kind of stuff. I'm like, if we're mixing air to breathe to make it work underwater, it feels like maybe we're going someplace that we weren't meant to go. It's a lot just to be underwater that long to begin with. Having just oxygen, just having air in your tank seems like, we're pushing it a little bit. And, because I did all my certifications and all my classes and everything else, and people just sort of naturally progress through that. And when I didn't sign up for the next set of courses, the guys called me and they're like, "Oh, I thought you'd show up for the nitrox class and the this, that, and the other." I'm like, "No, I'm done. When it comes to mixing in chemicals to make the air last longer and to make you stay alive, and you have to do math and tables and charts about how deep you're going to be and how long, and you're leaving tanks outside the cave. Like, I'm out, guys. That's a world telling you might be doing too much."
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. It was there was actually a place around here. Um, so I live in Florida, and there's particular cave that's really famous around here that people go diving in all the time. And they were trying to explore the various branches that were in there. And there was one person there that had like 20 plus years of experience, and there was another person that was like just as qualified as they were, and they were going into that the deep cave diving and all that stuff. And one of them like just trails off from the rest of the group because there was like 3 4 of them in total. One of them just kind of goes off in his own direction, never to be seen again.
Yep, he's gone.
And it was
Yep,
just
he's gone.
and it was just one of those like, why?
Yep. Yep.
Like I would be one of those kind of people. I'd be like bear hugging the person in front of me. It's like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Don't leave me alone.
Do not leave me alone. Because I would be that kind of person where if I was alone, I would find the terrifying shark or entity. I would find the entrance to the what's that creature from the deep ocean? The Kraken. I would find the Kraken.
The Kraken.
Somehow, some way, and be like, "Yep, this is my life now."
Yep.
I'm in a small confined space with a giant Kraken, and you know what?
Here we are.
Here we go.
And this is why we don't do mixed oxygen diving. That's it.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. So, do you own any pets?
Just have a couple dogs. Have almost got my tongue tied there. Have a Doberman and a Boston.
Oh, that's an interesting mix. Any
Yeah.
particular reason why you picked those up, or?
No, not really. I mean, it's what we've always had. It's sort of what we started with, and we're on our second round of the Doberman Boston combination, and it just works for us. The Dobie's 90 pounds, the Boston's 15 pounds, and the 15-pound dog's in charge, obviously.
It's amazing in how the little dogs tend to rule the roost kind of thing.
Yep.
I've never understood it, but back let me think, back in like 2010s ish times, I was living in Georgia with my now wife, then girlfriend, and we had he was a black lab mix, and we had a Chihuahua. Now the Chihuahua was my wife's dog. The black lab we picked up when we moved to Georgia, and that little Chihuahua, he had the black lab trained so good. And it was funny because that black lab at any point could have just taken his little paw and just boop, could have swatted him away and just walked on his merry way. But that little Chihuahua had him trained so good that if he even raised his like a little bit of a growl, like it's like, okay, nope, take right off. And it was just it blew my mind, and just how like we got him because we wanted him to be able to keep an eye on the house like when we were gone. And it's like, okay, we got you to be the quote unquote protector, and now like what do you do?
Yep. Yeah, our first set of dogs, our Bostons, obviously they can't reach the countertops in the kitchen. They're too small. And we would come home and there'd be food missing off the counter. And the big dog was not the type of dog that would get into it. The Doberman was not the type of. We finally figured out. We caught him one time. The Boston would bite the Doberman in the back legs until she jumped up and knocked the food off the counter for him to eat. She wasn't allowed to eat any, but he couldn't reach it otherwise. So he trained her to knock food off the counter for him to eat while they were closed up while we were out of the house. So it's always a little dog that's causing trouble.
Oh, it's hysterical. Again, the same 2 dogs that I had. So at the time we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and when we'd leave, we just let them have the roam of the apartment. And we had a trash can that was in a closet, and the little guy would always like sit there and like start pawing at the closet door to get into it to get to the trash can. Well, the big dog didn't care at all.
Yep.
Well, one day we come home and the trash can is out of the closet, knocked down, and just trash everywhere, just all over the place. And so this happened once, like, okay, whatever. We picked everything up and we just immediately assumed it was the big dog. You know, he's just getting in there and doing his thing kind of thing.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, we come home maybe a couple days later, happens again. And at the time, I'd just gotten introduced to these little cameras. They were like Wise cameras is what they're called.
Yep.
And I had a set of them, so I'm like, you know what? Let's see what the dogs are doing. Like, I want to catch them in the act, and if I see motion or whatever, I can just yell at them through the camera and just tell them to knock it off. Well, what was happening is that the big dog would go in, knock it all down, and then just walk away.
Walk away. Yep.
And then the Chihuahua would go in there, grab, like, it wasn't like he was eating anything. Like, that was the wild part, is I thought they were getting into it to eat things. He was going in there grabbing things like paper towels and just all these things, just so he could tear them up and just strewing them
Yep.
out around the
Yep.
house.
Shred them. It's
And
angry at
I'm
the
like,
trash.
oh my goodness, it's like, what have we gotten into? So this is when
Yep.
I got introduced to these door locks for closet doors. It's just this little bar of metal that fits on the on the bifold, and just kind of goes right over the joint, and then it can't
Yep. So
open up.
can't bend. Yep. Yep.
And I'm like, whoever made
Problem
this was a
solved.
genius.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, do you follow any content creators outside of the farm sim space?
Yeah, I mean, mostly for the other games I play. So there are, just like there's DJ Goham and Clutch and Farm Sim, there's the similar cast of characters in the Tarkov world. So watch some of their content. In a lot of ways, I mean, Escape from Tarkov is a very different game than Farm Sim, but with the new seasons and with different, the season passes and new maps being open and everything else. There's a lot of that same, sharing the new map, explaining the new stuff, and it's funny the similarities because a lot of times I feel like in the farm sim community we all get very excited like we are for the Highlands DLC coming out, in a week or so, and anyone who's been around long enough knows there are going to be parts of it that are going to be great. There are going to be parts of it that you don't care for just because it's not your personal taste. There's going to be parts that we can't understand. There's going to be a little bit out there that just doesn't quite make sense, and it's the same in Tarkov, and you just got to figure out, am I missing something? Do I not understand what's going on here? Or is this something that was released half baked and there's just not really a full answer for it? So I enjoy watching that kind of content as well. Particularly now with the Battlefield 6 stuff coming out, I've been watching a lot of that stuff too. And I think everyone's on that now because it's new. But yeah, just the other games I play pretty much.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, if you could meet any three people, who would they be and why? And it could be people from the past, people from the present, rock stars, movie stars, any three people, who would they be and why?
I would have to start with Ron Hextall.
Okay,
Ron
okay.
Hextall was the original Patrick Waugh, and the Flyers of that era were with Lindros was just. I mean, I watched the game where Hextall came to center ice and called out the other goalie for a stand-up, shakedown, earth-shaking fist fight at center ice between two goalies. I'd want to meet him just to know what he's like, just to get in the head of a man that played in that era and played that position with the nastiness that one did in that era. I mean, he was phenomenal at his trade, but I wouldn't want to meet him in front of the net or in the crease because he was bound to cut you in the ankle or even worse, depending on how close you got. So I'd put him out there. Um, I guess two other people. Let's see. Um, I mean, honestly, I'd bring my grandfather back. He died when I was young, was a big part of my life. I'd love to not meet him, I guess, but just, he died when I was young enough that I knew what happened, but I didn't know what happened type situation. And just a great man in general, just a hero in his own right. And just a guy that I'd like to know him for who I am now. I'd like to meet him as an adult. I think he'd be a phenomenal person. And then a third person, that's a good one. Let's see. I guess if I had to pick somebody, I would say, man, that's a tough one. I'm not into celebrities. I'm not into, what's trending and what's famous. Um, I guess I'd like to meet someone from, you know, uh, the founding of our country. I'd like to know what times past were like, whether that's, a George Washington and Abe Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin, someone like that. I'd just like to, I'm not quite a history buff. I might be falling into it here. We might be entering that phase of mid 40s, but I think someone like that could really offer some really unique insight into where we were as a country 200-ish years ago, and what life was like back then.
Gotcha, gotcha. And last question I got for you in this segment here is, what was your first paying job?
My first paying job, I was 14 and I was a lifeguard at an indoor country club pool. And I had the Saturday morning shift because I was in school, and I got to watch the senior water aerobics every Saturday morning for years.
Okay. Would you say that might have influenced your career path, getting into the EMT firefighter?
Probably. Probably the hero complex started there early. I had one rescue as a lifeguard at the old country club, and there was this one little old lady who wore a float belt to do her jazzercise, and she was all of 70 pounds, and she was sweet as could be, and talked to me every week and got to know her. And her name was Betty, and the one day I was sitting there, and Miss Betty's her float belt had slipped and was rotating around her body, and so instead of being upright in the water, she was starting to do this. And I asked Miss Betty if she was okay, and she said she was fine. And this situation continued until her ear was in the water, and water was starting to go into the corner of her mouth, and she was swimming in a circle, slowly going lower and lower in the water. And I had to, as the head lifeguard described it in the incident report, effect rescue, which meant entering the pool and standing next to her and uprighting her. So, a big save in a critical situation, but Miss Betty lived to jazzercise in the water another day.
Well, I'm sure Miss Betty was very grateful for you at that point in time. Oh, all right. Well, like I said, that is the last question I have for this segment. So now it's time to set our sights onto the chat. So again, I want to give a huge shout out to Dust Bunny. Dust Bunny, thank you so much for gathering up all these questions for me. First one we've got here is from Gold Gaming. Ask, BP, at what age did you decide that you could be your hero, a police officer, and settled on being a hose dragger, or you couldn't be a
From
hero?
Yeah.
Wow.
From a fellow hose dragger, Gold Gaming, I hear you, bud. And as we all know, firemen get to sleep on duty, buddy, and police don't. So if you're going to pick one, always go fire. And that's the right choice. And who doesn't love a fireman? We won't get into the politics of today's world, but firemen are loved everywhere. So easy decision over police any day of the week.
Gold Gaming, thank you so much for your question. Greatly appreciate it. We got one here from JFD3PO. Says, BP, why are your carrots your favorite crop in Farm Sim?
My community has decided that carrots are my favorite crop. I wouldn't say I was bullied into it, but I'm not sure I was given much input into which crop they prefer to watch me harvest. And I suspect that when I go on to the member server on Sunday for our member server stream, there are going to be a lot of fields coming up orange, and they've threatened the hand harvesting tools instead of allowing anything with a motor or an engine. So we we are we are here for the suffering, I guess.
So your community does that to you too, huh? They
Yeah.
just sit there and pick on you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't know what that's like.
Exactly, right? Never had to harvest a crop he had no interest in doing before.
No, no. And what's funny is they get really creative. So I'm doing a series over on a live stream over on BR163,
Hmm.
and they my community got it in their head that the thing to do on that particular stream was to drive in reverse over the wooden bridge with the two like telephone poles
Hmm.
as their
Yep.
kind of supports.
Yep.
Wanted me to drive backwards on it with a trailer on the back. I did it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did it. Wasn't happy about it, but I did it.
I have said I'm not necessarily a monkey that will perform tricks for money, but I am a man that will perform tricks for the right amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it too. Oh goodness. Uh JFD3PO, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from Dust Bunny. She asked, where do you see your channel in 5 to 10 years?
That's a great question. I don't. I'm along for the ride mentality. If tomorrow, like you said earlier, I wasn't able to create content again, would I be sad? Absolutely. I'd miss it. I really enjoy it. I tend to do things to an extreme, and do them with a high level of intensity until I get burned out on them. So I don't know. If it continues to grow and it continues to be a positive community, I would love to continue doing it. If it becomes time to transition out, we'll go from there. We've got a couple of new ideas for the channel, a couple of things we're trying out, some new, not new content per se, but some new ways to take in content and that kind of thing. And that's the logistical challenge that I find interesting that I'm hoping to have rolled out here in the next probably 7 to 10 days and see how that goes. And if the channel takes off, that's great. And if it stays the way it is, I love my community and I love what we're doing. So, I would say, I'm happy no matter what happens. And if I'm still doing it in 10 years, that would be great news because that means I'm still really enjoying it.
Awesome, awesome. She also says, thank you for your service in the emergency services. Yes, and let me
Oh,
double that one and say thank you as well.
always happy to help. It's great for the support and the guys that are still in it. Try to support them as well. It can be a thankless job, but it's a great career, and I'm glad I got to be part of it, even if it was for a short while.
Let's see. Again, Dust Bunny, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from the Corvette 12 says, my two favorite Farm Sim 25 creators in the same spot. Question for both of you. Name your top couple of favorite maps currently, or maybe a map you're itching to try out.
How about we do this? I'll do one and you do one, and then I'll do one and you do one. We'll do two each. Does that sound reasonable?
It sounds reasonable to me.
I will start off and say, and I've said this on stream before, I would love to have the Wilds brought over to 25. There's that we talked about, like the movies that you sort of hit at the right time in your development and everything else hit a special spot. The Wilds was one for me. I would love to have that map brought over. There are plenty of start from scratch maps. There are plenty of, sort of forestry and create your own thing. But that one, I would love to see. And, I don't think we're going to see that one, unfortunately. But that would be towards the top of my list. And I have probably 5 or 6 significant personal playthroughs on that map over the years.
Gotcha, gotcha. And also to put a little caveat on this, the Corvette 12 also says, thank you, console preferably.
Oh, console preferably. Okay, well, there you go. Okay.
So mine for console, I would have to say right now, just came out recently called Saxlingham. That map is absolutely gorgeous. Um, actually, that's the only map. Actually, let me back up just a bit. So I recently made the jump over to PC Mac, and it was maybe a couple months ago when I started playing on it. That was the one and only map where I actually went out of my way to get from a third party site in order to play on it, try it out, and loved it there. Now that it's on, all platforms, yeah, absolutely love that map.
Yeah, that's a great one. I would say if you're looking for PC, I'm running the Realistic Cattle Ranch series on Sunshine Forest, which is a very sort of unheard of quiet map. It is very well done. It's super simple. It does have the peat moss add-on, which is a really good enrichment for that one. It came out early in Farm Sim 25, and I think that map is set up for any kind of map play you want. It has a train, has a minimal sort of town selling station, but plenty of room to do your own stuff, and is set up with all of the stuff on one sort of edge and bottom half of the map, so you get access to the whole thing, and you really can go absolutely wild on that map. But yeah, Sunshine Forest is, I think that's a big sleeper map in 25, and that's definitely console friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. By Carl TG. And you know what? I'll double down on the Carl TG and throw out Tassie Farm. I think that map is amazing. The only kind of downside to that map, in my opinion, is the fact that the peat that is available on that, and pretty much every Carl TG map has that peat system attached to it, is way overpowered when it comes to pricing. That was, I think, the first map that came out to by Carl TG, and I just don't think that that price point was kind of reevaluated. But if you're on PC Mac, there are ways to adjust the pricing. I did find that out through a lot of trial and error. Big shout out to Cavalier Roy for helping me out with that one. But yeah, absolutely beautiful map. Love that one.
Yeah, good
Again,
modder too.
absolutely. Corvette 12, thank you so much for your question there. Got another one from Dust Bunny. She asked, how did you come up with the name Bad Punkin?
So, as I said previously, I tend to get into things hot and heavy and dig in deep. So I years ago had a pretty large Jeep, off-roading Jeep, a rock crawler, and that Jeep was bright orange, and the Jeep's name was Pumpkin. And based on how I drove it, and how it performed and the troubles and trials and tribulations we got into deep in the forests and deep in the mountains and deep in the hills, it became known as Bad Pumpkin, and that handle has just always stuck for all the online stuff.
That's awesome. Again, Dust Bunny, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from Raxamelius. He asks, what is your favorite activity outside of gaming and content creation?
Rax, great question. Good to hear from you, buddy. And Rax is actually the main interview I watched in preparation for tonight. His interview with you was an absolute blast to watch. I love Rax's energy. The other day he got on and he came on. He said, "I'm feeling a little cranky this morning," and I listened to it while I was out walking and exercising. Couldn't tell the man was cranky in the least. His energy's fantastic. He's always great to listen to. So Rax, hope you're doing well, buddy. My favorite activity outside of gaming is probably hockey. I'm hoping to get back into playing again. Maybe we'll see. Playing is always at this age is always a catch 22. The pain of getting back into it, the month and a half of suffering and feeling like your body's going to fail is painstaking. And then there's always the risk of additional injury. But I'm coming off of I had carpal tunnel surgery in both wrists at 34 and had both my shoulders partially rebuilt in the last 12 months. So I've been off the ice for about 5 years now, but I would love to get back into it. I'm just not sure at this age and this fragility that men's league will be as forgiving as I want it to be on my body.
Gotcha, gotcha. And Rax has another question. Says, well, is it a question or well done saving listing Betty?
Oh, listing Betty, yeah, in the pool at the old country club. Yeah, and she did not want to be saved. She was quite confident she was all right, but when she started to bubble when she spoke because the water was going in the corner of her mouth, I thought maybe we didn't want to let Betty go fully underwater. I don't think she was a submarine at that stage.
Rax, thank you so much for your questions there. We got one here from Cavalier Roy. Speaking of which, it's like you call his name and he appears.
Did you say it 3 times in the mirror?
I must have. He asked, what would be the perfect map in your opinion?
Oh, that's a tough question. So I'm personally a fan of large maps. So 16x, 4x, somewhere in there. I think the parts that tend to be lost on the 16x and the 4x maps are sort of the what I would consider to be the soul of the map, having farmyards that don't really work, having little challenges and fields that are too close together and fences and that kind of stuff that are always in the way. I think that's what makes a lot of the gameplay really interesting. So I wouldn't say it's a perfect map, but I would say something along the lines of Judith Plains. 4X map has great terrain. The farmyards are super tight on that map. All of us are complaining about things being in the way and not being able to be deleted with map object hider. But I think that's what brings on the challenge. And we spent a lot of time recently on stream and in Discord talking about, map burnout, where you get on, you play for 30 hours, when the map's too easy, you're done, right? You get everything you want, you get your farm set up, you have more equipment than you know how to use, and you just lose interest in playing. There's nothing to play for. You could harvest fields again, you could do that kind of stuff. But I think when the map has character and challenges and a lot of detail in it, I think that in and of itself makes the repetitiveness of farming and building and growing a farm much, much more enjoyable. So I would say a medium large map, probably a 4X would be my sweet spot, with something in the along the lines of Judith Plains, multiple farmyards, tight spaces. My series on that one, I think I'm at 200-ish hours and almost 4 years in game, which for a lot of guys isn't a lot, but for me that's a pretty big stretch. And I'm still selling stuff at sell points I haven't been to. And that type of depth in the map where that stuff is in there, I really like. So something like that. Or I would say the flip side is, and what is the modder's name? Is it KA77? Cal, something like that.
Uh,
She does really small European maps. But they're super, super detailed and like really well thought out. That level of detail on a map, I think, is what makes it. So if I could have that level of detail on or an Oxygen David level of detail on a 4X map, that would be my sweet spot.
oh, 100%. And I'm not certain about this, but I think it's Calais.
Callie, yeah, I know you're right. You're right. I bet you're right.
But Kevlar Roy, thank you so much for your question. We got one here from the Corvette 12 again. Says, would you play a good Appalachian map? Google Cades Cove for inspiration. Hopefully, map makers are watching.
So an Appalachian map, I assume, would be very hilly. I'm imagining sort of the East Coast. We're talking what, North Carolina, Blue Ridge up into Maryland-ish area, depending on exactly what you're calling the Appalachians there. Yeah, I've said for a long time, I think we need more maps with more terrain. I would like to see, what is the new forestry map?
Mm-hmm.
Palatine? You did a really good map tour on that one. I watched that entire thing, and that one has the type of feature I'm looking for where you can't just go from point A to point B because you put the gas pedal down and decided to get there. You have to plan your routes. I would love to see. So if that's what you're talking about, like an Appalachian like that, where maybe your farm's in a valley and you're contained by hills or small mountains and you can't get directly in or out, and you're very pocketed farming. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Corvette 12, thank you so much for your question. We got Kevlar Roy with a comment says, couldn't agree more. A map that feels like it's alive and you can see something and say that it looks like somewhere I have been through. Yeah.
That is a
100.
much better and shorter way of saying what I rambled through. I agree.
Yep. No, 100%. Couldn't agree with both of you more. Let's see. I think we got some more here. Let's see. From Lisa, she asks, what is your favorite type of vehicle or equipment to use?
Oh, Lisa, I would say that I play with a keyboard, mouse, farm stick, steering wheel, and pedals. And I would answer that question by saying I really enjoy using all types of equipment because I can use them in different ways. We've been fortunate enough to have Tony as part of my community. He's part of a lot of communities, but he's been very involved in my community, and he's released his truck, which is just, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a really, really well done semi truck. and just driving that with the steering wheel and the pedals, just because the driving experience is good. It handles well. It doesn't slide all over the road. It doesn't tip over. Like I enjoy that. I also enjoy doing things that I don't do all the time, like doing crane work with the farm stick. I enjoy the enrichment and the involvement of being able to use my peripherals in it. So I really enjoy all of it. I'm very comfortable like using a harvester with my setup, and I'm very proficient with it, and I enjoy the sort of easy, efficient success of that. And then earlier today, I was recording an episode on my Homestead series, and I'm running a modded Unimog with the Powell Finger crane right up against a cab on the back, and it was an absolute. I mean, it was. I time lapsed it, and it still looks terrible. All right, but it was just a struggle, and that was okay. Like I enjoyed it because I had to think. It wasn't natural. So not to avoid answering the question, Lisa, because love you, love the question. But that's what I enjoy about Farm Sim is being able to find mods and different pieces of equipment and figuring out how to use them. I mean, because I've been, forced against my will into doing carrots, I am relatively proficient as a root crop harvester now. I didn't know that things were supposed to empty on the right side, and that's why the root crop bins are low on the left side, but the actual in-game ones don't. They empty on the wrong side, so all the heights don't line up. I learned that the hard way on stream while people pointed it out to me and laughed at me. But it was the enjoyment of figuring out that process. So I love all of them, and I would say I enjoy using any mod that is well done, that is feature rich.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more there. She also asked, is there a part of farming in the game that you would like to be better at?
The crane for sure. I mean, after just doing that today, we did have a complete and utter failure with the yarder, the in-game yarder, trying to do some forestry work on stream earlier in the week. So I'm gonna figure that out. I mean, that's not something we're gonna let stand for long. But yeah, I mean, I think that type of stuff, and in general, I think forestry, that equipment is really, really complicated. I'm probably giving myself an excuse, but I feel like the people who are really good at it have two farm sticks and I only have one. So, maybe someday I'll buy a second farm stick and then I'll have no excuses as to why I'm bad at it still. But until that day, I'm going to continue to blame the fact that I need at least 16 more axes and buttons to make those machines work effectively. And I'm clearly going to be as good with my left hand as I am with my right hand. So there's no chance that it's only going to make it worse adding more controls in there. But yeah, forestry for the short answer.
So it sounds like both you and I need a crash course with Doc over FAFO logging.
Sure. Anytime I'm in, I'm in because the logs, I don't know how logs end up in the sky or halfway across the field or underneath the truck, but I'm really good at putting them in those places on the trailer. Not necessarily great at it, but everywhere else in the whole wide map, absolutely stunning at getting them there.
Let's see. We got another comment from Kevin Leroy says, I've always said that people making American maps need to have more undulations to add more character to them. I know that some parts of the US are flat, but not all of them are flat.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. And I think that I think that what a lot is lost in Farm Sim, and I think, and I've always said, people should play Farm Sim however they want to play. Like, don't play like I do or like anyone else does. And we actually, on my channel, we have the Rod Challenge, which was put out by one of my community members, and several people have taken it on the same map. Several people have taken it on a different map. Some people are doing sort of very similar things. And one of the guys dropped in today and was like, I ended up buying the same piece of land you did to start the challenge. I hope you don't mind. And I said, why would I mind? Like play the game the way you want to play it. But at the end of the day, I think that adding terrain to the maps, I think slows down the unrealistic side of the game. I think it makes you focus on doing what you need to do, not being able to pull 6 trailers or 1 million liters of wheat up a hill is going to cause you to buy different equipment. It's going to cause you to set different stuff up. And whether you're doing everything in a super realistic way and you're driving every vehicle to every field and setting everything up, or if you're an auto drive and course play expert and you're sending everything to the fields, terrain creates issues in both of those situations and challenges that you have to overcome. And I think that is so much more enjoyable and enriching to the game than just having, a 4x flat map where it's like, you know what, I've cut this field twice now. I'm just driving straight across 6 fields to get there because I don't care anymore. I think when you reach that stage with a map is when you lose interest and you stop playing. And I think terrain is a huge part of keeping people on maps for long playthroughs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of those where I often find myself kind of going away from American style maps because they tend to be very either flat or very light on undulations throughout the entirety of the
Hmm.
map. So there's I call it the render ring. It's that kind of circle around the player that shows the higher quality versus the lower quality as you go further away. I
Hmm.
hate seeing that. It drives me up
Hmm.
an absolute wall kind of thing. And
Trees popping in and out.
yep, exactly. It's just one of those like it's those immersion breakers that really
Yep.
kind of do it for me. So I find myself going to those styles of maps where there's a lot of undulations or there's a lot of like decoration or a lot of things that just kind of get you into the map and you don't necessarily notice that render ring kind of thing. So I very much find that oftentimes the European maps like far outweigh the ability to do what I'm talking
Yep.
about there than any of the American maps that we have. Now there are
Yep.
some out there that are, okay about that, but they're pretty few and far between because where we see a lot of the American style maps are out either in the Midwest or out west like Alma, Missouri, where it's got some undulations, but it's very wide open. The fields are massive, kind of thing. So there's a lot of opportunity for that render ring to kind of pop out and be visible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the
Absolutely.
that's the only bugger is that us Americans we like the big big farming or go home kind of thing. Well, there's limitations to the game.
Yep.
Let's see. Kevin Leroy, thank you again. We've got one from JFD3PO says we would never laugh at your failure, BP.
That's the beauty of chat. I can't hear it, but I know behind the black and white of text there is chuckles, and we have a lot of fun. And I say at the end of every stream, and I mean it, that I wouldn't stream if chat wasn't there. Like I'm not out there just to put the content out there. I can record episodes and enjoy doing that, but the interaction with chat is great, and having such a good community makes it all worthwhile. And just having ongoing jokes and similar situations, and I love that we're getting into the member server now, so we're able to farm together and do some of that stuff, and it just creates a really cool dynamic to be able to do it. And we'll chat while you're streaming, right? What map are you playing on? What are you harvesting tonight? And it's just like, oh, I never thought about that. Or here's to Lisa's question, here's a piece of equipment that I'm unfamiliar with. What do you do when you do this? I mean, that's you know, SF Farms, who I hope is doing well. I haven't seen him stream in a couple of weeks now. I mean, he's the master, of course, playing auto drive. I mean, he's running 15, 20 machines at a time. So when I beat my head against the wall getting one harvester and a grain cart to work on auto drive, I pop over to his channel and talk with him. And it's just, that is the community, and being able to laugh at your failures and your successes and each other's is absolutely critical to having a good time.
Absolutely. 100% agree. All right. Well, that's the last question I had from the chat. So let's go ahead and move into our second segment here called Meat and Potatoes, emphasis on potatoes. This is where we're going to get to know you for more of your content rather than your kind of personal life. So, first question I have here is do you only produce content for Farm Sim or do you produce other kind of content as well?
It's a great question. And so, as I alluded to earlier, I actually have three channels. The Bad Punkin Gaming channel is the only active channel currently. I'm hoping by the end of the weekend, beginning of next week, to have Bad Punkin Gaming 24/7 up and running, which will be live supercuts of all my series running around the clock. And then I have Bad Pumpkin FPS Gaming, which will be for Tarkov, Battlefield 6, Arc Raiders, maybe some Call of Duty if they bring DMZ back. I'm not a big Call of Duty guy. But those channels are set up, and we are going to be rolling out content on those moving forward. Certainly, the farm sim stuff is going to be the mass majority or vast majority of the content. But when I play the other games, since the camera's already up, since the recording software is already downloaded, may as well throw some content out there and see how that does as well.
I gotcha. And you mentioned earlier that you started your farm sim life on FS19, if I'm not mistaken,
Hmm.
correct?
Yep.
And when did you said you've only been doing content for the past 6 months?
Yeah, so October 28th, next week, I believe that's Tuesday, if that makes sense, is 6 months for my channel. So I started April 28th and just started throwing content out there and set myself a goal of getting 100 videos up as quickly as I could, sort of thinking that would just be a litmus test to see if the algorithm liked it and if people liked the content, and hit that goal fairly quickly. Took a couple months. And right around the time I hit 100 videos, the channel started really pushing. And we've had some good success with it so far. But again, it's, I've said this and I say this to my people, my community all the time. I love that everyone's involved and as many people involved as possible, but it's not a quantity thing for me. It's a quality thing. And I'd rather have a handful of dedicated community members than thousands of subscribers that are blank faces and unrelated to the channel. If you're not engaged in the videos and on the Discord and asking questions and just want to be part of a farm sim community, then my content may not be for you. But if it is, then great, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. So, what's one thing that you never expected when starting your channel? Some examples I give are the sense of community, any kind of unexpected backlash. What are some things that you just never expected that did?
The community is certainly one. We've talked about that a number of times already tonight. I mean, the community is great. I fell into, I mean, as I keep saying, it's their community. I just happen to be in front of the camera from time to time. I had just some incredible people get involved in my community early on that helped foster and welcome new members, that are helping run the servers over on the Discord channel and on, for multiplayer. We have all kinds of people that are getting into modding and supporting each other and helping each other through problems. So the community has definitely been the biggest part. And I think that for me, my initial plan was just to create pre-recorded videos. I wasn't opposed to live streaming, and I figured at some point I would do it, but it wasn't the initial vision for the content I was creating. And the community started growing through that initial content, but when I started doing live streams, the community really came together, and that has been the best part. And I think my favorite part of any stream is when the starting soon screen drops and I get to greet everyone that's in chat, seeing the familiar names, seeing the comments. And quite frankly, my favorite part of that aspect is not even them saying hi to me, but when they're talking to each other in chat. They're, how's your day going? Or how's this going? We got a guy, Alan, in our group who is taking the CDL test on Thursday. And every time he checks in, on the channel, people ask him how he's doing, and that is so much more important than however many carrots we're harvesting that evening.
I gotcha. And would you consider Farm Sim be your favorite game? And if not, what would be?
That's a tough question. That's a good question. For the genre, yes. For what I would consider to be non-competitive, relaxing games, by a million miles. There's nothing else that I play. I have ATS downloaded on the PC. I have Alaskan Road Truckers download on the PC, and I'll dabble in those just for the new fresh game feel. I did a little series on Roadcraft, and I'll do that kind of stuff. But I've got a couple thousand hours in Farm Sim, and I don't have any other games that are like that even have 500 hours. So within the genre of just relaxing, low key, fun games, no. Um, I probably would put Escape from Tarkov right up there with it as far as things I enjoy. That game is incredibly deep and immersive as far as its content as well. It certainly has its challenges and its flaws still too, But that's a game that I was unable to play. It's available only on PC. That I wanted to play probably for 5 or 6 years, pretty badly before I got a PC, and that was actually my PC spec is built to run Tarkov. Was the goal in when we built it, because it's not a it is in a very similar vein to Farm Sim. It is not a particularly well optimized game either. So, but yeah, those two games are probably my top two, and it goes back and forth. But yeah, within the genre, Farm Sim by a huge, huge margin.
Gotcha. And describe Escape from Tarkov for those who are not familiar with it.
So Escape from Tarkov is a long play extraction shooter. So basically, post-apocalyptic world. There's no zombies or any sort of, anything like that, but you have a very basic hideout that you can build stuff in, and then you go into raids on different maps. Obviously, it's a first-person shooter game, and your goal is to collect items and complete quests to advance your character and your hideout and your abilities to make money, to get better equipment. And unlike a lot of there aren't a lot of modern extraction shooters, but unlike a lot of them, it is you die, you lose your stuff. Essentially you can assume it's gone. So there's no, it's not like Call of Duty where you just load back in on the next player, or Battlefield 6 where you just come back in with the same kit. If you bring in this backpack, this armor, this helmet, this gun, and you die, the reality is you're probably not getting it back. So there's a real potential for loss there. There are a couple thousand unique items in the game that have to be collected and turned in and crafted and everything else, with a high variety of rarity. So as an example, I've been playing the most recent Wipe of Tarkov, and there are several items that I need that I haven't seen in over 500 hours of gameplay. I have not seen yet. So
Wow.
in that regard, it's a very in-depth, immersive game, and can be, and it's PV. What is it called technically? A PvPvE. So you can play. There are other live players, and there are environmental players. AI essentially in the game as well. So it's a lot of fun, but it is, as we've discussed, it's not one to play before trying to go to bed.
No, it definitely sounds like it. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I got that game confused for the longest time with Turok. So
Hmm.
I'm expecting people to be like, "Oh, it's about dinosaurs and all that kind of." Nope, nope.
Turok was an amazing game. We can talk about that too. I had some hours in Turok as a middle schooler.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it was definitely a good one. It was one that it took me a very long time to get into it though. Like it was not
Yeah.
one that immediately like grabbed me, but then once it did, ooh, it had its hooks in me for a while.
The learning curve on Turok was hard.
Yes.
I'm not sure looking back, it was very well done. That may have been part of the problem as well, that some of the mechanics needed some polishing. But once you got into, I mean, I remember playing for hours and not beating levels. That was a game
Mm-hmm.
that you could bang your head against the wall for a while if you really wanted to.
Oh, 100%. So earlier you described kind of your start and end times when it came to playing and making content. You roughly start around 9:30 and you try and get off about 1:30, I think is what you were saying there.
Mhm.
So you get a few hours there. Walk us through like your typical day where at the end of it you're going to be creating content. So like you wake up from bed and go from there.
Sure. So I also put out 5 30 to 40-minute videos a week as well. So I have 3 concurrent series running right now, challenge series, and the live stream, which is a different map and a different series. So technically, 4 series going concurrently. So my stream prep is very minimal. And my streaming the last couple of weeks into last month has been very consistent, which has been great. But my travel schedule is such that that's probably going to change. I try to stream a couple days a week, like Mondays are usually pretty good, and then sometime midweek. And then to try to accommodate our friends who are not in the United States, because we do get a pretty significant number of internationals in the chat. I tend to try to do a Sunday afternoon stream, like a 1:30-ish, which catches the European folks towards the middle of their evening, and then also catches, we get a number of Kiwi and Australian and even some South African folks in that the time zone sort of line for that too. So because I create content during the day, so my day mainly consists of, from a content creation standpoint, getting up, checking the YouTube page, replying to comments. I have a fairly in-depth Google, it's not Excel sheet, but a sheet that has my video release schedule. I have to release videos every day of the week. So I go in, I check comments, I reply to comments, I release videos to our members who get different levels of membership, get different videos in different different implements or different increments early from their public release. All my videos are always public released, but some people get them 3 weeks early, some people get them 2 weeks early, some people get them 2 days early. So I go in and do that kind of stuff. While I'm doing that, I check the mod releases. Usually at that point, the mod hub stuff is not totally released and flushed out, which unfortunately means fishing through some third-party sites who tend to put the mods up faster. At least get them out there. So I at least go look through those and see if there's anything that looks interesting. And then from there, I get into my recorded content portion of the day, which is sometime from, mid-morning to mid-afternoon. I try to record one episode a day, 5 days a week, so Monday through Friday. That usually takes, the actual episode takes anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how much content I can record or time lapse, or if you're just harvesting 300 acres of grass, sometimes you just have to let the game run and have to come back when it's done. And then I edit and render those videos. And then the nights that I go live, I try to get on at least 30 minutes ahead of time to do a little bit of prep work. Right now, doing the Rod challenge on Dakota 16X is easy because Rod set up a bunch of really good rules, and basically a 4-hour stream at a 3x speed is 12 hours in game, which is the daylight hours of the day. So each stream is one in-game day, whether we're running 3-day months or 1-day months, doesn't really matter, but jump in and whatever needs to be done there, we get done. We spent the last 2 episodes harvesting, I don't know, 1.2 million liter to 1.2 million dollars worth of wood. So
Wow.
a lot of forestry work in addition to getting field prep and stuff done. So that's sort of my general day. If from a content creation standpoint.
I gotcha. And thinking back, you mentioned that you played during FS19, obviously went through 22, and now here on FS25. Thinking for each iteration of FS that you played through, what was your most and least favorite map of each of those games?
Oh, that is a good question. 19, I probably couldn't give you a map. I was new on console. I tried everything. I had no play style at that point. And being on console, I was more into, can I attach a baler to the harvester and not have to do this field twice? I would say that not that my play style now has a lot of nuance, but I would say that it was a lot like a kid in a candy shop. Like, how do I get more government subsidy signs down and buy everything on the map and just see what I like? That was a lot of the FS19 time. 22, I would say my favorite map on 22, I had a love-hate relationship with Ravenport. The starter farm drove me nuts. I hated it. I kept trying to get playthroughs on that, never could. The top end of that map with the bigger fields, when I started playing up there, I liked that a lot better. So I definitely enjoyed that one. Western Wilds for sure. The original Calmsden, which is now whatever we're supposed to be calling it, so we're promoting the right thing, but I can never remember the name.
Oak Bridge.
The cat Oak Bridge. There, and I have to be reminded every time, and I'm not trying to be difficult about it. I just can't. It's Calmsden to me. So, and that's actually where I got introduced to Calais maps, if that's how we're pronouncing it. They had a little European one, and the yard was like through a stone gate. I wish I could remember the name. And that's probably, I mean, it was not even a full 1x map. And I ran a full Massey Ferguson farm on there and had a great time. Just that's when I started to get into, like we talked about earlier, where the map sort of guides the farming and the nuance of the play and the map making and the undulations and the gates and the yards and the that kind of stuff where you're not just clearing a whole field and putting stuff down with enough space between it. You can make every turn easily without paying attention. So I love that map. So I played a bunch on there. 25. My favorite map is probably at this point. Man, that's a tough one. I like a lot of 25 maps. I would say the map that I look forward to playing on the most right now is Judith Plains. It has its challenges. It's not a perfect map by a long margin. But like I said, I've got almost 200 hours into my playthrough on that one, which is a long time for me. And I still find that map really exciting. I find that I can't outpace the gameplay on that map. The map forces me to build in increments and do stages, and some of that is because of some of the shortcomings of the map. I was talking to some folks who played on it, and they were kind enough to message me and be like, "Stop putting your milk in the in-game dairy. It does it does not produce enough goods to get through the milk that you're producing. You need to find an alternative." So we had to build a dairy and do that kind of stuff, but that created opportunity and lots of content around that. So I've really enjoyed that one. Um, Maps that I probably have downloaded and quickly gotten rid of in 25. I didn't spend a lot of time on the base game maps. I really wanted to like Hutan Pantai. DAG series on that one is an incredible piece of content. I don't know what episode he's on, probably 1612 at this point. Still creating new and interesting stuff every week. I mean, the man is gifted, we'll put it that way. And I watched that series for a long time and was like, yep, I'm gonna play Hutan Pantai. And I'd load in and I'd play for like an hour and I'd be like, I can't even begin to relate to this map. It does not. The rice, I'm not into rice. I just don't have any desire to do rice. And meanwhile, he's over there doing it like six different ways, and each way is more interesting than the last. So, I would say Hutan Pantai is probably my least favorite just because I can't relate to the map at all. It just doesn't do it for me. But in all honesty, I would say in general, the FS25 maps have been really good. Not without some challenges, not without some maybe need for refinement, but overall, I think we discuss a lot the lack of mods for 25, but the maps for 25 that are coming out tend to be pretty good.
Absolutely. So you mentioned other creators like DG Goham earlier and others. Is it would it be safe to say that you try to keep up with some of the upcoming farm sim news?
I try. I also find that I don't like to be ill prepared during content creation. I want to be successful, and I've had to accept, well, let me rephrase that. I'm working on accepting the fact that, sometimes you buy $1 million worth of forestry equipment on a live stream and then can't get the yarder set up. And that also makes for good content. Like the failure can also be funny, and that's okay. So I feel like the more I've gotten into content creation, I've distanced myself a little bit because I want to find the mods and have the experiences without the knowledge. And like DJ does such a good job, right? But he's going in, he's spending 15 seconds to a minute on each mod and giving you a basic overview. And if I already know all the buttons and all the controls for the new tractor or for the new harvester and that kind of stuff, it isn't a new experience that is going to come through in the content. It's going to come through as though you've already played with it. And I think for a lot of people, seeing new things and experiencing it with and through the content as I experience it and learn and make the silly mistakes that everyone makes, is part of the fun, right? And then they can enjoy that and everything else. So I would say to some extent, yes, but in recent weeks and even the past couple of months or two, probably a lot less than usual. I mean, I used to watch DJ every day. Before starting content, I was DJ Go Ham every day, wanted to know every mod, wanted to know which ones to download, and that was when I had, when the mod folder was in the thousands. As everyone who gets a new PC and doesn't realize that having it in your folder creates all kind of problems. You go through a phase where you're just like, I might use this tractor 6 years from now, and I don't want to not have it. So, the 16th case Puma, I need that one because it has 3 rim colors, and the other ones only have 2 rim colors. And someday I may want a red stripe in the middle of my rim, and this mod can do that. So I definitely went through that phase, and now through much very appropriate and well given guidance by my community. I'm running the FSG mod app and have mod folders and have pared it all down to a lot less mods. But a long way of saying that, yes, I do keep up to some extent, but less than I used to.
Gotcha. So, with the kind of, we'll say, quote unquote, limited knowledge that you may have, is there a map that has been announced that you're like, a map or mod that you're really excited about that's going to be coming out in the future?
It's a good question. I'm always excited for 22 and 19 map conversions, even just to play on them, even if it's just a couple hours, just to the nostalgia, just to try out the new equipment. So I love seeing maps that I've played before. So like when Oxygen David did what is it not, it's not Calmsden, it's what's the other one that what's one Oxygen David did? He had a second one, didn't he? Or am I thinking of somebody
Um,
else?
I
He had
don't,
Calmsden,
I don't
and then
know.
he had not Court, but you'll look it up while I'm talking. But just, I
Yep.
mean, the map conversions I enjoy a lot. I do, again, for the nostalgia reasons, I like when things like the Colossus pack come over from 22 to 25 just to see how, what new features are coming out. I'm intrigued to see what the Highland DLC, what fishing is like. I suspect I'm not going to like fishing very much. I don't like fishing in real life very much. But I'm excited to at least see what that looks like. I'm excited for some new husbandry options with the Highland cows. I'm hoping that we have some really good modders bringing content or enrichment to the game with husbandry. We have arrows, realistic livestock, and the enhanced livestock, in addition to the vanilla livestock add-on to enhanced livestock, that I'm hoping become base game at some point. I don't think it'll happen with 25, but I'd love to see that level of detail in animal husbandry brought over, or at least a couple of different features, at least have male and female animals, that kind of stuff. So I look forward to that. And yeah, I mean, I'd say that's about it as far as mods that I expect to come out. But as I said, I love the conversion mods. I love, even if I don't use them, just seeing them and seeing what people do to them and going from there.
I gotcha. And I didn't see anything by Oxygen David, but Dust Bunny in the chat said Court Farms.
It's not Court. I'll think of it. I'll
Okay.
think of it. It's not Oxygen then. No, it's a different map then. There was another
Yes.
European one that came out in 22. The farmyard was through the brick arch, stone arch. You had the chicken coop on the left, a bunch of grass fields in the back. It was all on a hill. Silo was
Hmm.
within the stone walls. It was good. Colmston is also a great map, but there goes the memory part we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it too. That is exactly it. Let's see. So before FS25 release, what was one feature that you were most excited about? So we were getting that kind of slow drip of information from Giants, prior to 25 being released, and they're like, "Oh, there's going to be God rays, there's going to be realistic weather events, there's going to be ground deformation." What was that one feature that you're like, "This has got me excited"?
I would say, and I didn't put it together until after we had FS25, but the summation of the visual effects changes. And I was excited about them individually, like you said, ground deformation, the lighting changes. Like I was excited for that, but when the game came out and the graphics were just so much better, and just it wasn't even that they were higher render or anything else. The lighting just it hit better. It felt natural. The fog, I mean, the days of fog on mod maps at the beginning of FS25 where the fog lasted all day and you couldn't see anything or get anything done. I mean, that was just fun at that point. But just the graphical changes that they brought in, the quality of the lighting, the quality of the graphics and shadowing, the ground deformation is a great piece. I still think the ground deformation is, sort of baby step one towards the potential ability to have terraforming as a base game, not to the extent it is in terraforming or terraforming the mod, but to have some level of that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, I think just the visual changes. We talk probably at least once a stream about the fact that my advice to people that are playing Farm Sim 22 that may be considering buying 25 because they feel like they're missing out on something, the gameplay's not that different. FS22 and FS25, if you're in a position where you're happy with playing 22 and you're not looking to just upgrade for the sake of upgrading, I'd stick with 22. I don't think the game is that much different. I don't know that FS25 was a huge game change from FS22. Like we said, the graphics were good. They brought in some different things. But yeah, if you're happy playing FS22, I would keep doing it because it's not worth if you've got a PS4 and you got to buy a PS5 and the game and you're sinking $700 into getting into Farm Sim 25. I don't think it's that much exciting and different. And I've said from the beginning, I don't play with precision farming anymore. And I played with precision farming every single game save from the day it came out in 22 till I stopped playing 22. It was incredible in 22. It was a huge change for the game. And in 25, it just I don't like it. It doesn't play well for me. So, I think that, you should keep playing what you want to play and not be worried about the big differences because in reality, I think 25 is not that far off from 22.
I gotcha. So, again, thinking back to all the features when they were kind of describing them to us, what's that one feature that you were excited about, but very quickly soured on once we got our hands on the game?
It was precision farming. I mean, that's what it was. And it wasn't a new feature, but when they said they were going to bring it over, I was excited. It sort of was released without a lot of fanfare. It was just, I feel like it just sort of showed up, and that also feels like the level of attention they gave it in creating it. Um, I looked forward to. I turned off natural weather disasters from the first time I logged in, and I've never turned them back on. That feature never interested me. I'm not against it. Hail damage doesn't do enough in game. There isn't enough ecosystem around the economics of Farm Sim that hail is going to affect anything. And the tornadoes just, when you're playing on a map that isn't going to have or isn't supposed to have tornadoes, having them come through, I think breaks that immersion like we talked about. You want to be in the game. So I would say that feature never really did anything for me, but the one that really disappointed me was not even a new feature, but it was the porting over of precision farming because I've had so many issues with the consistency of it, being unable to min max your fields. And in 22, it felt like you could go in, it was a very clear roadmap, which I thought added, immersion to the game, added depth to the game as far as wanting to focus on your yields instead of just getting the fields planted and harvested. And I just have not found the experience to be the same in 25.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, what's one feature that Farm Sim doesn't have that you really wish it did?
Husbandry to a much bigger level. I think the husbandry system is oversimplified. I think it's a feed and forget type system. It's very easy to throw a bunch of cows in a barn and make a bunch of money. And, if that's what you want to do, great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you're looking for, if we have, let's call it 10 different implements to get a field ready, planted, taken care of, and harvested, and the cows you can feed once at the beginning of the year and come back a year at the end of the year and collect the milk and make a bunch of money, that doesn't, that level of, I think the comparative level of involvement is very, very different. So, and we talk about that a lot, and that's why, for all of the series I have going, I'm running either realistic livestock or enhanced. And like my realistic livestock series is centered around the realistic livestock. It's a cattle ranch on Sunshine Forest. We don't do a bunch of arable crops. We don't do anything outside of um, dairy and bovine productions. We don't do flour, we don't do bread, we don't do any of that stuff. So it's really the focus is, and I've got, 5 or 6 barns, and we move animals from a birthing barn to a breeding barn to a calf hut to an enclosed teen cow, shed type thing. And that has been a really enjoyable series and doesn't really need any other outside content to keep that series moving and keep me busy on it, because the realistic livestock has added so much to taking care of those animals that having, call it 350 head of cattle is a full-time job.
Absolutely. So, what kind of preferences do you have in regards to maps? Do you prefer kind of the more American, wide open kind of feel of maps, or do you prefer the kind of more tight and compact UK style?
I'm definitely a big open space American kind of guy. But as previously discussed, I do think there is too big and too open. Like US Flatlands 4X, I played on that map, and it's a very well done map. And there, I think we're on like version 5.2 of that map at this stage. The modders continue done a ton of work on it, which I appreciate the support and the enrichment of the map, but it's just too open. You can get to any field anyway. There's no obstructions. There's plenty of room on the field edges to get your equipment on there, and the roads are big enough and everything else. So I think a larger map with good detailing, some challenges. We're doing the rod challenge on Dakota 16X, which is a huge map, and even the simple addition of ditches on the side of the road changes the gameplay, mainly because I'm required to keep a ditch counter on stream. Every time I put a vehicle in the ditch, I have to count it. The guys keep me honest. But, beyond the obvious, content that it creates, it is just an enrichment. You have to put a field entry in, you have to, gravel in a little area, get your vehicle stage. I think that type of detailing makes a big difference. But I am definitely a big cereal crop type harvesting type farm kind of guy. I love getting 2 or 3 harvesters going on course play and multiple grain carts and trucks running back and forth, and that is how I would choose to play on my own, and a lot of my content reflects that as well.
And what style of farming do you prefer to do? Do you prefer to do like arables, forestry, grass care, husbandry? What's your like the thing that you prefer?
Husbandry would be my top choice, given the opportunity, but a lot like, when Lisa asked about, what kind of vehicles, I find that the challenges presented by all of those I enjoy, and I enjoy changing it up. I enjoy having crops to take care of and harvest and fields to take care of, and then come the winter months, deal with your husbandry and that kind of stuff. I like part of the thing I like about maps that I grow and build on is I don't want to buy a flat open piece of land. I want to buy a piece of land that has trees on it that I have to cut down. And so, I clear this area to put this shed up, or I clear this area to put this barn up, or, I clear this area to make a field. I like starting from, being unable to use the piece of land to having it be exactly what I like. So, we see a little bit of that in Judith Plains. There isn't as much building on Judith Plains, but the expansion is nice because of the terrain. You can't buy a bunch of fields that are very proximal and easy to get to. They did a really good job of clustering the fields, which is limiting. And then, like, on Dakota 16X, we're taking out trees everywhere we go as well. And then, Sunshine Forest is another map where we bought lots with have a bunch of trees. So if we want to put something up, we got to cut a bunch of trees down.
And what is your most and least favorite job to do around your farm?
I would say my least favorite job to do around the farm is whatever I have to do every single episode. So it doesn't matter whether it's husbandry or greenhouse watering or whatever it is, but if I can't get on and play until I've done these two or three tasks every single time I log in, those are the tasks that drive me nuts. As an example, on the Homestead Challenge series I'm running, the only water we have is from a modded water mill that has a capacity that fills up over time. So we have to pull water out of it in the morning and we have to pull water out of it at night, or we don't have enough water to keep the greenhouse and the orchard and the animals watered. So every single time I play that map, I have to load in and do water. I have to do 4 rounds of water every in-game day because of the time it takes to fill up. So that task got old real quick. My favorite tasks to do are things that I can set up with auto drive and course play. If I can get a big, 50 plus acre field and get everything running and automated and just orchestrate the chaos, that's my go-to favorite activity on the farm.
And as a content creator, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's looking to start in this field?
I would put your head down and I would pump out videos. I wouldn't put my head up. I wouldn't take stock of comments. I wouldn't worry about analytics and the algorithm and all of the information that YouTube or Twitch or wherever you're putting your content on is giving you. I don't think that you can have a brand, an identity until you've put out enough content to create that. And I think that getting lost in this video got me subscribers, this video didn't get me subscribers, and Wednesdays I'm getting good views, Thursdays I'm not getting good views. Just put your head down and pump out content. I've had a lot of success having interaction with my community as it's grown and them giving me some feedback and some ideas. As example, the Rod Challenge was created by Roderick in our community, and being able to stream that was a great thing, but it also aligned with the type of content I wanted to do. I didn't do it because one of my community members came up with it. I did it because other guys were doing it and I was enjoying watching them do it so much I wanted to do it. So I canceled the original live stream plans and restarted the live stream playthrough on the Rod Challenge because it interested me. So stick to what you want to do, put out content. And the other piece of advice that I picked up early on was, every video, every upload, every content that you do, whether it's a live stream or pre-recorded, try to do one thing to make that piece of content better than the last thing you put out. Have better transitions in your videos, get better filters on your mic, download sound effects, upload it better, get a better rendering, whatever it is. There's a million things you can do within content creation, but every time you upload or go live, try to do one new thing that will improve that piece of content. Not anything huge, not anything game changing, just make little bits of progress, and all those individual steps add up to a huge journey to success if you do it every time you do it.
Absolutely. And what would you consider to be your most memorable moment of your content creation career so far?
That's a tough one. I would probably have to say my first live stream. It was the recorded stuff wasn't, I don't know, going live isn't stressful, but the recorded stuff, I think there's a margin of safety. There's a barrier there. You're a faceless voice on the internet, and the trolls can't reach you in a way, I guess. But going live and you log in for the first time, one, just logistically getting live set up is terrifying. I mean, trying to figure out how to actually broadcast and get stuff done can be, a huge step. And then you finally do it, and is anyone going to be in your chat? Is anyone going to show up? When you're recording by yourself, you don't expect any interaction. You may put together a little bit of a game plan. You got a plan for the episode. You got some tasks you're going to get done. You have an idea of where you're taking your series. You get the benefit of having that feedback after the content is out and after you felt good about it. And live is a whole different ball game. And I went live the first time, and my community came together, and we didn't have 300 or 400 people in chat, but they talked to me the whole time. Guy walked in and dropped two super chats right off the bat just to say thanks for going live and appreciate it. And it wasn't about the monetary; it was just the fact that they were so excited that I was live. I mean, I was planning on going live once a week, and I think I've been live at least 3 times a week since the first time I ever went live because I've enjoyed it so much. So that was probably the biggest unknown and also the wildest success of everything I've done as a content creator.
That's excellent. Would you say that there's any creator out there that you would draw, like, that you drew inspiration from that kind of made you motivated to start your channel?
There are a lot, but the guy I was watching so I tend to ingest content like a lot of people like binge. So you get like you watch Daggerwin stuff and you do get caught up. It takes a long time with Dag because he puts a lot of stuff out. But you get caught up and then you sort of get into another series with another content creator. But the guy I had been watching right before I started recording was Northern Sim Farmer. And he was really relatable because he wasn't doing content as a primary source of income, but he was producing content at a high level and putting out a really consistent and good number of videos on a regular basis. He was doing the one tile challenge that Crustu put out. He had a really cool sort of European touring series. It was actually like a bunch of mini series that were all strung together. He started on Kalmsden and went to Palanye and went to Shvakova and did like 10 episodes and that kind of stuff. And it just, for me, I think what he shared on and through his content about his journey and just that he was creating content because he enjoyed it and because he was already playing the game and it wasn't for financial gain and it wasn't for notoriety and it wasn't to replace his job. It was just something that he did, and he was very open about the fact that guys, you might not hear from me next week because I got a bunch of stuff going on in my personal life, and I just don't might have time to do a video, but I'll get you out one as soon as I can. And just not, I guess, his content was always incredibly well done and very polished, but he was very relatable and very down to earth and just felt like the kind of guy that you could relate to. And I think that was probably the last piece for me, was just being like, all right, you don't have to stick to a schedule. You don't have to, necessarily be the best or the fastest or put the most out or do anything else. You can do what works for you and just be you. So that was, along with a lot of other content creators, he was the one I think at the very end there that I related to in transitioning from a content digester to a content creator.
Gotcha. And the last question I have for you here in this segment is, if you had the ability to make a map of real life, so you had all the prerequisite knowledge, you had the coding knowledge, the ability to type out in Lua, the ability to do all the editing in Giants Editor, all the stuff, you had all the knowledge to do. Where would the map be based off of and why?
I've already answered this question live, and I'll give the same answer. It'd be in the Rocky Mountains. It would be a transitional map, probably based on my experience of what the Rocky Mountains transition into as they hit the plains of Kansas, all included in one map. So you'd have, 8,000 feet of elevation, however that would translate into the game, which would give you an opportunity for forestry and some difficult terrain and that kind of stuff. And it would transition down into what was eventually the plains of Kansas, which are, as we've discussed, flat and square and wide open. I would love to be able to create the opportunity to have multiple weather systems on the same map. So I'd love to have, it within that map, in addition to things like, your productions and your fields and the sell points and everything else. I'd love to have like the mountains get a foot and a half of snow in the winter and the plains get 2 or 3 inches. I'd love to see some dynamic weather on a map like that and allow you to play how you wanted to play. So within the map itself, you could pick really hard areas to build and farm, or you could pick more traditional areas and do that kind of stuff. Because I have yet to see a map, and it'd probably have to be at least 4x, if not potentially even 16x. It would have to really encompass one portion of the map being logging and mountainous and the terrain being the most interesting feature, and then the other portion of it would be a much more traditional farming type scenario. And I would love to see the mix of, your productions having unique inputs. Like if you want to do an ethanol plant, let's say, you have to bring the corn from the plains, but you have to fuel the ethanol plant with woods from the mountains you got to go cut down. So you're forced to bring the resources to bear from those areas. The plains wouldn't have a water source, the mountains would have a water source. So if you want to water for your animals or crops, you got to build one to go get it. So I'd like to see a map that has a pretty significant juxtaposition of terrains and would force you to play in multiple styles and not just be siloed exactly where you set up your first shed.
You put certainly a lot of thought into that one, and I love it. But like I said, that is the last question I had for this particular segment. Now it's time to set our sights back on the chat. So again, Dust Bunny, thank you so much for all your help with this. We got one here, from I think that's Satchins in the Dark. Satch in the Dark.
Chats in the dark, yeah.
Mm-hmm. BP is your BP is my favorite creator right now. I would like to live stream. He makes it look so easy. Thanks, BP.
Oh, that is incredibly kind. And as I tell you guys every time, live streaming is 100%. The success of live streaming is based on the chat. It's not based on the content, because if you don't have a good chat, your content doesn't matter. And having you guys there every night I'm on, whether you lurk and hang out and drop one comment or none, or whether you're chatting away the whole time, just having people there makes all the difference. So if you guys like the live streams, it is 100% based on the energy you guys give to me. I try to give right back to you. So if you like it, I appreciate you being there, but it's there because you guys are there. So Shats, thanks so much. I appreciate that and love having you in the community.
No lie detected. 100% accurate. Let's see. Shats, thank you so much for that one. We've got one from Jaked Up. He says the old stream farm question mark.
The old stream farm, that's it. That was the map I was thinking of. Yep, from 22. Yep, leave it
Booyah.
to Jaked Up. He knows them all.
Jaked Up, thank you so much for that
Who?
one.
So that wasn't Auction David. Who did that one? We can figure that out later. But
I think that's Black Sheep Modding.
that is black. You're right. That is Black Sheep modding. Okay. Yep, I should have known that. Great map.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad we figured that one out. And it looks like Majors Gaming as 16x map. Haha.
Yeah, I like the big maps. We're having a lot of fun on Dakota 16X. I will say, if I ever had a wish list for, I don't know what it's going to be, Farm Sim 27 or 28, whatever the next one's going to be, I wish the optimization would be done so we could bring bigger maps to everybody. I'd love to see the ability to get a 4X on a console. I don't have any idea what that challenge would incur or how that problem would be solved, but I'm confident that if we made them more efficient to run, that they would be easier to get to everybody. But I would love to see 4X maps be more of a standard size map that everyone could access. And then, right now, I even upgraded my CPU and my RAM in the last 3 weeks to be able to run Dakota 16X and stream. And I'm running a very high spec PC, and we still get lag on stream because of how big the map is. So
Wow.
definitely, would love to see some optimization on the back end to allow people to enjoy the bigger maps. And I still, despite everything I've done to my PC, I still can't even open the 164x map that I've found available for Farm Sim 25. So after 3 hours of loading in, I gave up.
Wow, that's impressive. But yeah, that appears to be the last question that I have from the chat. So we're going to go into our third and final segment called That's a Silage Wrap. So, Bad Punkin, thank you so much for coming out here tonight. I've had an absolute blast with you here tonight.
Excellent. I appreciate you having me on, and it was my pleasure, and I had at least as much fun as you did, if not more.
I'm glad to hear it. Do you want to let everybody know where we can find you?
Yeah, sure. So the primary channel is Bad Punkin Gaming on YouTube. There are links everywhere on that channel to the Discord, and those are the two places I can be found. I don't do social media. I don't do any of the other things. So I'm pretty easy to find. I'm only in two places. I would say the best place for content is the channel, but the community, which I think is the bigger benefit to, being part of the channel, is on Discord. And we have a great community over there. And I would say all different walks of life and walks of farm sim over there. We got people that play hardcore and people that play for fun and people that play on PC and console. And if you're looking for a community, I would recommend those guys because they make the community what it is. I just happen to be the name on the nameplate on the door, I guess, on that one. So that's where you can find me.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have any future plans or projects that you want to share with us here tonight?
I mentioned earlier I'll be dropping 2 more channels. They'll be linked up. One will just be the live. So if you enjoy the content and are looking for long form, I know that in regards to the videos, my super cuts are the best performing videos I put out there. People tend to like to watch those, I guess, at work or at night. So we'll be putting the super cuts onto a 24-hour loop. I'm assuming it's going to be in the neighborhood of 36 to 40 hours of unique content that'll be looping. So that'll be the same content. It won't be new, but if you just want to have something on in the background, or if you're looking to get caught up on a series, the Bad Punkin Gaming 24/7 channel should be up in the next week or so, and that'll be linked on the page. And then if you are into FPS games like Tarkov or Battlefield 6 or DMZ or Arc Raiders, I'll be putting some probably sporadic content out on my Bad Punkin FPS Gaming page starting this week as well. We'll see if that community takes off. That channel will only ever be live content. I don't think we'll do any pre-recorded content there, but if you're into that kind of stuff, that's what we have going on.
Excellent, excellent. Well, again, thank you so very much for joining me here tonight. And this is the time in which I turn to the chat and say, did you enjoy this? I hope you did. And if you want to see more of this kind of content, unfortunately, I cannot know every single content creator, map maker, modder, whatever there is out there in the world of farm sim. I can't know every single one of them. So if you have a favorite person out there that you would love to see come onto the channel, let me know who they are. Reach out to me via any of my social medias, and I will do my absolute best to get them onto the stream here and do exactly what we did here tonight and do the interview. But just have a few like prerequisites. Number one, they have to be in the farm sim community. So again, modders, map makers, content creators. I will even go as far as to say farmers, because without the farmers, we wouldn't have farm sim. So we'll go as far as that one. But more importantly, they've got to be above the age of 18. So make sure that if they are a content creator, modder, map maker, that they're over the age of 18, and we'll be good to go. We'll get them onto the show as best as we can and go from there. But again, I want to thank everybody who came out here tonight, who ended up asking their questions, who sat back and just watched the show. Thank you all so very, very much. Again, big shout out to Dust Bunny for helping out behind the scenes and passing along all of your questions here tonight. Thank you all so very, very much. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please show me by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things. The algorithms enjoy you doing. The shows you're engaged with this channel, enjoying the content. And that being said, I hope everybody has a fantastic day. Take care. BP, hang on for just 1 second till after the outro, and I'll catch you on the other side. All right. Take care, everyone.
This is Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Let's roll. Out here in the country, where the roads run wide, there's a world behind the pixels that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods, to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. big John Deere, digging deep with modders so their voices we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull